Okay, so I've clicked the recording. Let's see, hope for the best. So, welcome all. And then, before we start, as in we were talking about reports for a while, so I just wanted to continue the discussion as somebody said about the Excel report layout. But is there a question before we start? Any other topic? It may not be related to this topic, and that's okay. Nothing?
I have a question, Saurav,
Go
but
ahead, man.
see, actually, this is one of my assignment actually. In item card,
Mm-hmm.
suppose we need to create one vendor item color field,
Okay.
and that should be a means unique of vendor item number plus vendor item colors should be unique. So in that case, do I need to create vendor item color as a means separate table, and I need to store, or directly I can create a field in item?
Okay, vendor item number and vendor item color. Okay,
Yeah,
that need to be unique. What across the products that that vendor is shipping, or that need to be unique on the item
yeah. That when that number is unique across the item.
across the item.
Yeah.
Now, if you ask me what's the best case scenario, based on my understanding, it would be that add that field into the vendor item table, not in the item table, right?
Okay.
So there is a table on the vendor, I guess, where it is vendor item. Let's just quickly check that.
Vendor item. Okay.
So yeah, there are vendors that you can associate that these provide me these items, and
Yeah.
that way you can relate to them. So there is somewhere there is a vendor item table, because on vendor you can provide them details about what item which vendor provides you. Is it item reference now? I don't know. Yeah, so this is item reference based on the item that they call in, and then they have
Okay.
this variant code.
Okay.
And so when you kind of use this, is it item reference? And correct me if I'm wrong somewhere. I think there used to be a vendor item number table, right?
Vendor item number, but I think I don't see in that. If you go to item number, item card, then it's not available maybe now.
Or maybe I'm
And
referring to a
Yeah, we did
classmate.
have vendor item.
Sorry,
vendor item,
we had.
we
Yeah, we
have.
did have vendor item.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay,
So where you can list that this vendor provides me these kind of item, and I guess that would be the right place to specify it. And then you might create a lookup of it, but then how it will relate to that item is different, because the same item can be
yeah,
provided by 5 different vendors, right?
yeah, yeah,
Now, if you want to make it unique on the item card, then you can surely add that field. And then, if you were in the previous meetings, we did talk about the key type unique, so you can make it unique so that it doesn't get repeated,
yeah. Okay,
right? So
yeah,
that
got it.
how you can kind of achieve it if needed.
Yeah. What I mean to say, like Saurabh, there is one field in item card. Okay,
Yeah.
that is called vendor item number, but that is not means there is no table relation of this table
So that
vendor
vendor
item.
item number is a cross-reference relation, if I'm remembering it correctly, where what the vendor calls this item. So let's say
Okay.
you call a item A in your inventory,
Okay.
but vendor
Okay.
calls it ABC 5413. So that's
Okay.
the vendor item number, that what vendor calls that item in their system, if you want to manage that.
Got it.
Yeah, so that's a completely different setup,
Yeah.
right? but that's just used for translation, because when vendor gives you, let's say, a when you generate a purchase order report that I want these items from you, and if there is a vendor item reference associated to an item, when you print that report, it actually standard Microsoft uses that cross reference to say, oh, this item, like if you look at it here, is the
Okay.
same, right? But like this one, item number in my system is 1908S.
Okay.
The vendor 30,000 calls it as blue well. So when you create a purchase order, and in the purchase order you are trying to procure this item, when the purchase order is printed out, because that is what you are going to send to your vendor, they'll see
Yeah.
the vendor item number, not your number, because they'll not
Yes.
understand these item numbers,
Correct.
right? So that's how
Yeah.
this has been used in the past. If you place it here, then the problem is that the same item can be shipped by different vendors, and
Yeah.
then can be procured from different vendors, and then you will have a conflict that which one should I pick, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you want it on the item card, then just use the unique key property for that field on the item extension. That way it will not repeat there.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Saurav.
Okay, anything else, anyone, before we get into it? Okay, if not, let's briefly, as in we did talk about the world layout in the past weeks. I hope that got some clarity for everybody. In version 2023 wave 2, I guess, if I'm not wrong, Microsoft announced support of Excel layouts with Business Central. Now, let me start with questions. How many of have you done export to Excel in your jobs or for your clients somewhere in legacy versions, or even if you do it in current version using Excel buffer and all?
Yeah, I've done.
Okay, I see a lot of hand raise and a lot of yeses. Are you still doing it? Is the question.
Hello, sir.
Yes, are you?
Sorry for late time.
Not an issue. Are you still
So
using
what?
the export to Excel features, guys, who have used it in past in Business Central?
Yes.
Okay. And how many of us have used Excel layout or have kind of tried it with the with Business Central?
I have tried it.
You have tried it. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's start it from basic for everybody so that we are at least on the same page. Let's try creating a very simple report to begin with. Okay. So let's create a report, and I'm using AZAL extension, and let's keep it as I don't know what the number is available. Okay, but let's assume this. Okay, test Excel. Okay, and let's currently base it on one single table, our favorite customer table, and let's put it on report and analysis, and then let's start choosing some field. Let's choose number. Okay, name and name 2, name just. For some reason with the screen sharing it's a little bit slow, my mouse, but okay. Let's do balance, LCY and balance. Let's take some numeric field to see how it looks, and then let's see some date fields. Do we have date field somewhere here? Okay, I don't see them, but let's do a finish here. Okay, now typically on a report object, what you will do is once it gets created like this, you will start assigning a layout file to it, saying okay, this is a report and I need a layout for this. On the similar line, we'll also try to add a layout to this on the top, and there should be some options. for layout. It's Excel layout. Okay, and then I need to pass in the, is it true or false? I don't think so. It's a path, right? So let's write a path here. Okay, so we'll say dot source. Oh man. Source and Excel layout, and let's take this. Okay, so what typically happens in the world layout as well as in the RDLC layout, that as soon as we set this and we do a build process using Control Shift B, it automatically generates the RDLC or the world file there. So when I do a Control Shift B, it'll still follow the same pattern, and based on the file path that I have provided, it generated a Excel layout XLS for me. Let's try opening it and see what happens. Now I haven't done anything. I have just defined the data set for my report. I have specified the Excel layout property, and I have built the report, and this is the Excel file that is generated from this. Now there's a lot of information. If you would have tried it in the previous version, you might not see all these details, but now there is a lot of details that is popping up. Okay, let's start it from the beginning. The first one is a data sheet which has the columns that are part of my data set in the same way: number, name, balance, and balance LCY. The translation data is used for kind of multi country, where you have to translate certain text into a different language. So you can specify what language based on what is being used and what is the field name and what you want to convert it to. So if it's, let's say you are translating it to Italian, you know how Italian uses for name, then you can specify, or you can ask your users to fill in this Excel file, which is the translation data. Then there is this caption data file, or tab. I don't know why my mouse is behaving weird today. Okay, come on. Okay, the caption data stores the captions that are in your report, and we'll see it maybe in the next session how you can use it. And then the aggregate metadata is a metadata set of fields that you also get in the world layout, as we saw in the last meeting, and you also get it in RDLC, which then you can use for different things in your report. Now in this case, it provides you the extension ID from where it is coming from, the name of the extension where this report is there, publisher, version, object details and all. Then for cloud, it provides you all these tenant details, username and all, who ran it and all, if you want to use it. And then if there is a request page, then it'll also provide you the request page filter fields and option values. There's something to notice, that the data sheet is not a straightforward Excel. If you know about Excel, there is an option where you write something and you can then change it to, or format it as a table. So Microsoft automatically formats the data that is coming out of Excel report into a table. So when you select everything into it, you will notice that this is, oh no, not this, but if you look here, you will see that there is a data area which will show you the selection of it. So they build a name table for you when they generate data for you from the Business Central. So this is the data. So this data, if you do a sum of data here, you'll be able to see that the sum of it here. So this is as simple as that. If you want a pretty straightforward report, you define what fields you want, and based on the captions that you have provided on your data set, those will be reflected here, and when we run this report, the values will repeat into this table X. Okay, so let's try closing this, and let's try running this. So I go into my launch and change my, and if there are any questions, you can stop me at the same time. There's no problem around it. Okay, and this becomes my report object. Okay, let's do a publish and let's see what happens. Okay, the report will be kind of added to the server, and a browser should pop up with saying, okay, here is the report, and we'll see how it is different from from a Word or an RDLC report layout. Okay, so now looking at it here, you see that there is not a report layout selected, but the other things that you see, that there is the filter panel for the customer for our data item, because we didn't specify properties to hide this. And then there is a send to button, which allows you to send it to the same options that we had in any other report. Then you have a print option, which I'm a little bit curious why there is a print option, because you cannot technically print a word layout. Okay, then there is a preview and close, and technically speaking there should be a preview and close. Okay, does not have a valid layout. It needs an Excel, a custom, or a Word. Okay, what I'm doing wrong here? I'm surely doing something wrong. Let's see here. Do I need to specify some other properties? I guess I have all the properties listed here. Is the default layout needed? I'm not sure, but let's see. And then when you build it, you kind of understand how things work. So the default layout we have set to Excel, because going forward there might be some other extensions or maybe a user layout that has been generated for this report, and I guess that's where the default layout property is needed. Okay, so now you see a little bit change here. The report layout is selected, and then the buttons have changed. Now there is no preview, because in Excel you can't preview it. Whenever you run this report, there will be only option to download it. So you can't print it, you can't preview it, you just can directly download it. As soon as you hit the download button, as you do in custom Excel export report, you get the Excel file here, which you can open, and will follow the same template that was generated when we did the build of the report. So the data sheet will have some data, and which is this, the customer data that I have in the system. The translation will be empty because we haven't specified any translation. The aggregate metadata now will have values based on when the report was executed, who executed it, from which extension it came from, and things like that. So it provides you all the detail around it. The layout now in Business Central 26, or I guess from 25 and higher, have a layout ID. So each layout is uniquely identified with an ID, and it provides you all the details that are needed from there. Now, okay, this is similar to export to Excel. What else it provides me? So let's go back into our designer, and try doing basic stuff into it, into the data set, or not the data set, but the layout file that has been generated. Now this is something at this point either a user can do from the client itself, or if they come to you from a developer perspective, you can do it from here. So I can open this file externally and then do changes as I need it, either on the existing sheets or maybe make a new sheet if needed. So let's say I create a sheet. Okay, interestingly here, and I say I want to see it at the beginning of it. If I can move it somewhere here, okay, and I'll call it as totals. Okay, let me add someone. I'll have to change my mouse somehow, it seems. Okay, so in the totals, what I want is a sum of the different columns that are there. I can either put it into the data sheet, I'm pretty sure, or I can also create new tabs, as many as I want, and I want a sum of the balances and balance LCY, and we'll try to doing it together. Okay, total balance and total balance LCY. Now using the basic Excel formulas, I would like to kind of craft it. So I can say the basic sum of the data tab on my balance. Okay. And then in the same way, I can do a sum of my balance one. Now remember, this is a format, the data that comes out of the Business Central is already formatted as a table. So you don't have to worry about that, oh, Saurav, you are only making selection on one row. There might be 20 different rows, what happens then? Or there might be 2000 rows, what happens then? Because it's a part of a table, it'll automatically, as table gets expanded when the data fills in, the formula of sum will automatically change and will reflect to everything. Now let's try doing it here also to see can we modify the standard sheet. Okay, and let's do here also. Okay, and we have done a little bit of modification. Let's test it out what happens when I save this and republish my extension. Okay, so let's republish this and let's see what happens now. Which one will work? Both of them, none of them, or one of them?
I think new sheet works,
Okay,
but the other one won't.
okay. Okay, Omar. Anyone else want to place bets onto it before I hit download? Alright. So let's see what happens. I will try to open the Excel layout 1. That's a new file that has been generated, and that should pop up my Excel. Okay. We have found problem in the XLS. If you trust the source, yes, I did trust the source. I'm the source of this. Okay, so the total balance is 0 at this moment. Let me enable it so that I can edit this. Let me see what happened. Come on. Okay, so as soon as I get into the edit mode, It says that there are some validation that has been failed, calculation properties has been discarded on the data tab. So you cannot change whatever is on the data sheet. Data sheet is something, or not just the data sheet, but the data translation, caption, and aggregate metadata are the sheets which will automatically get updated whenever you run the report. Okay, so even if I made changes on the data sheet, those changes has been overwritten because the data is loaded, and that kind of removed it. And if you remember, I placed it in the bottom section on the third or the second row, but that doesn't matter because this kind of grows as the data grow. But on the total sheet where I kept the balance sum, let's have a look here. Okay, you'll see that it is sum of balance data sheet in the balance column. So it based on how many rows you have in your data, the sum of the data balance is reflecting there. The sum is coming as, and let's copy this so that, and the same value, so no problems there. If I place it somewhere here for the time being so that we can do a tally of this, and I convert this or try to sum this up, you will notice that the sum is the same, right? Whatever is being reflected over there. In this case, the balance and balance LCY are same. Now comes down to, yes, that sounds good, that yes, my customer wants the data, and it makes sense that if they want their customer list or any other list to be reflected, great. But sometime I get a requirement that in the same report I also want my customers as well as my vendors. Let's try doing that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make changes into my data set in the AL code. So let's add one more data item here. And sorry guys for the slowness, this is killing me also, but that's how it is. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add one more data item here, and I'm going to call it as, let's say, vendor. Okay, I'm just taking references from AI, so it kind of automatically pulled in the data here, and let me just make them unique because they have the same name. Now, have you guys worked on reports in the past and have ever downloaded the data set of the report in either in NAV or BC? Any report, it may not be an Excel report, but have you done export as Excel? There is an option, send data to Excel, data only, right?
Yeah.
So let's see what happens on that. But now should I do a build because I have changed my data set? Right? Because I have changed my data
Yeah,
set.
you have
Sorry?
yeah, you have to do it, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So let's do a build. But now let's see what interesting thing happens when I do a build. So I did a build, which surely created the layout, which is the Excel file. And now if I try to open this, what will happen is it'll override any changes that I have done in my previous layout, or it did not. It did not. So what happened? Was there an error message in my AL designer which I didn't notice? It says package is created, so I don't think that there is an error. Where are my vendor fields then? Yeah, no error here in the build process. Okay, let me try renaming the file as 1. because we have seen it doesn't overwrite the file for whatever reasons. Let's do a build. So it converted it to, it created a new layout file, which makes sense. Does it have vendor fields now? Let's see. So now if you look at the data sheet here, it now have what you have seen in send to Excel on any report, right? It's a flat file of the data set. Now either you are working on RDLC or on the world layout. If you guys have worked on the report in the past, you'll understand that the first thing that happens whenever you run a report is a sheet like this gets filled in, and then based on the data in this sheet you see or you format your layout, either RDLC, Word or Excel, anything that in case. So it is generating that data set file in this format, and from here it is equivalent to how you do a send data to Excel, right? So let's save this and let's try running this to see what happens. Now what will happen? People who have worked on reports in the past, what kind of data you are expecting at this moment in the RDLC file? Oh, sorry, in the Excel file. Let's say if I have 5 customers and 5 vendors, how many rows you are expecting?
10.
Should they be
10.
10? Sorry?
10.
10? Okay, everybody says 10. Let's see. So if I have 5 customers and 5 vendors, I don't know how many customers and vendors I have, but just taking a random guess. When I open this file, it'll have 5 customer where the vendor information will be blank. And then there will be 5 vendors where customer information will be blank. This is what we expected, right? People who have worked on report in the past. This is what we all know. That when you run a report on 2 separate data items which are not related in any way, this is how it works. So now this is not something that you want to give it to your customers. They're like, okay, what the heck is this? Do I have to manually do this every time and all? And who thinks that we can do a sum here because there are some nulls in the middle? Can I just do a sum including nulls and I'll get the right value?
No.
Okay, anyone else? Before I hit enter. Anyone for yes? Let's put it this way.
I say yes.
You say yes. Okay. Let's have a look here. You can calculate it because when Microsoft generates this or fills in this data, they keep this column type number. Even the value is null, you will notice that the type is number. The formatting of this field is as number. So because the formatting of this field as number, you are always able to sum this up whenever you need it. Either this column, this column, this column, or anything. Anything that is code and text in Navision or Business Central is formatted as text. So if you have vendor number starting with 0001, you will never see a 1 there in Excel. You will always see a 0001. And the way Microsoft does it is like you have this number, like so Excel by default formats it to 1. But if you change this to be text, where is the text? Text, it still shows you 1. So then what they do is they say, okay, I'll put a slash in the middle, and people have done it in NAV for sure, something like this. So because it is not formatted as number, it automatically translates it to a text. Same here, these all are a text. So your numeric calculation will still work because based on the field data type, the cells are formatted in that particular format, whatever is a Navision formatting. Dates will be formatted as dates. I'm pretty sure that, and let's test out dates. We just need to see what kind of formatting Navision uses at this moment. Is it my system date or is it something else? Okay, now let's take an example of a related data item. So if I have a related data item, which is, let's say in this case, customer ledger entry or maybe vendor ledger entry, whatever we want. If I put a data item which is my customer ledger entry, or yeah, let's do that. Oh, it's listening to me, it seems. I even mistyped this, but it still remembers things. Okay, it is giving me entry number, amount, and amount LCY, and let's add one more field here if I can of posting date, so that we can see the date formatting at this point. Okay, so let's do a date, and let's do posting date. Come on. Okay, and let's add this. Okay, so I have posting date. Now I surely need to set up the, what is that, data item table relation. I always forget property names. It says set the sorting based on entry number, and then the data item link, which is the customer number, is equivalent to number. Now my customer and customer ledger entries are related, and now let's do a new layout, because I surely cannot overwrite the existing one, or can I? Let me see, because I have not made any changes on the layout one. Hopefully I should be able to see the updated data sheet here. Okay, no, it doesn't update it. That's something I don't like, that every time I'll have to change my layout file name, but then there might be a reason why Microsoft is doing it, which I'm not aware about. Okay, so we have the Excel layout 2 as the default layout right now, and let's run that. So now in this case, I'm getting customer, I'm getting related customer ledger entries, and then I'm also getting completely unrelated vendors at this moment. So what kind of data we are expecting at this moment? Let's say I have again 5 customers, each customer have 2 customer ledger entry, and then 5 vendors.
Saurav, we had to calculate that amount field, right? It's the flow field.
That's a very nice question. Let's see that. Come on. Okay, so this has been done. Let's have a look. I was opening my Excel file and I see a huge list. Now I didn't get time to have you guys thinking, but I'm pretty sure you guys know it, that the way relation work in any report, not just the Excel layout, in any kind of layout that you use in the report, any related data item will repeat the parent item as many times as there will be records in the child. So from here or till this point, this is my customer ledger entry that will repeat itself when the customer as many entries will be found. So if you look at it, the customer number 10,000 have quite a few ledger entries, and that many time the customer information is repeated. Then same happens for the second customer, same happens for the third and fourth and fifth, based on how many customers I have. And then when you go to the end of this report, you will notice that everything else should be null, and there should be only values associated with my vendor. So this section shows me my vendor info. And Praveen, to answer your question, I guess we see the amount and amount LCY populated because there was a change. I don't remember the exact version where these fields are automatically calculated when they are used, at least on reports and pages. Okay. Now, coming back to our posting date discussion. So the posting date, if you look at it, it's matching to the date formatting of the user who is running it. So currently it is pointing to the date format of mine. If I change my system date format, the posting date will reflect in the same fashion as I'm using it. So far so good? Any questions still here? Okay. If none, let's move to the next thing here. Now we did talk about that, yeah, my customer want on that report all their customers and all their vendors, maybe not customer ledger entries, but this doesn't solve my purpose. So recently, or maybe I'm wrong, in the previous version, Microsoft added a new property here, which is data per sheet, something like that. Okay, let me see. Excel layout multiple data sheet as set to true. Now as soon as you set this, what will happen is a little bit interesting to see that just by setting up this property, you can achieve data into different sheets based on the multiple data items that you have. What happened? This seems an error. One or more error failure with emitting metadata of report. Okay, sorry, my bad. Let me make it 3. This guy has so many problems. Okay, let's do a build. I guess from the build we'll know what happened, if it succeeds or fails. Okay, this got succeeded. Let's publish this and see what happens. So once I publish this, this should pop up my client somehow, and then I should be able to run that report if I understand it correctly. Okay, so we have just tweaked a property which is multiple data sheets kind of thing, and we'll see what changes happen to our layout or the Excel file that is generated out of it when we use that property. Okay. So I hit the download, and here is the Excel layout 4. So as this pops up, okay, it automatically pops up the caption thing, translation data at the first, but then you see now there are 2 sheets, the customer sheet and the vendor sheet, because these are my 2 independent data items. The customer ledger entry was linked with customer, so that's why it's kind of treated as same, but the formatting of it have changed. It first picked up the customer ledger entry field rather than the customer field, and then it repeated for the customer, which is a little bit odd. I'll have to go back and check why that happened. I didn't expected that, but for vendor it's a plain simple straightforward list. Now don't overkill this saying, oh yeah, that sounds a great feature, let's add 10 different data items and start generating an Excel layout. Surely you can do that, but make sure that you don't overkill the data set so that the report generates a lot of rows, which is a problem when reports are being rendered and they tend to be slow. I surely will have to go back and check what happened to the customer data item because I was expecting that the number, name, balance, and balance LCY will come first, and then these details will come later. But it actually happened other way around. But the thing is that you can just specify this one property if you have multiple data item to be exported to Excel, and that way you will get different sheet per data item that you have in your layout, the major one, not the connected one. Every connected one which is at root level 2 or 3 will surely be treated as differently, but anything that is at root level 0 at the yeah, at the beginning of it will get a separate sheet by just using Excel layout multiple data sheet. Now this sounds like an interesting option, but what happens when we think about extending it? Because if Microsoft have not, let's say there is a Microsoft report that you would like or your user would like to extend it, and they want to use the multiple data sheet option, which is not enabled by Microsoft, how you achieve it? I guess that and everything else kind of from a GUI perspective, what else is possible in Excel, we'll discuss in the next week. But any questions on this one till now? Anyone?
Can you also add like in the report layout part, can you also make the customer or vendor list running like first one vendor, second vendor, third vendor like that? So that will be easy because now you have showed the sum of as Saurav.
Sorry, can you repeat your question? I didn't get it completely.
Actually, now in the report, you have showed that like total amount, right?
Mm-hmm.
For the data set, like when you in the layout, when you just add the data set, it will be repeating for like all customers and vendors, right? You can
Yes,
also
but
show
now
that,
there will be two sheets.
yeah,
So
two
now,
sheets.
yeah.
But for example, you want to design a report
Mm-hmm.
and you want to list the customers. Uh, Without the layout, you can just like show how we will add it. Not in the data sheet, in the designing of a report, Excel report, roughly.
How you will add what? Sorry if I'm repeating myself. What do you want to add?
In the Excel,
In the Excel, so I'm going on the layout Excel,
yeah.
right?
Uh, in the data part, you have just shown, or in the data set, you have shown like we are listing that all the customers and vendors, right?
Right. But because now there are, you have used that property, the data sheet is actually split it into two tabs, the customer and
Correct,
vendor.
yeah.
It's not one single data sheet now.
Hmm.
Okay, now what do you want? In
Like
the totals?
you showed how to total it, right?
Oh, the totals will work in the same way. It's just
E-
the basic Excel calculation. So let's say customer and vendor, and then you can just do a sum of whatever field you
Some
want.
other sheet,
Yeah, from
vendor
the
sheet,
sheet.
yeah.
Yeah, balance, and then it's just Excel, as simple as that. Of customer amount. You can do a lot, as in this is just pretty beginning of it where we are seeing this, but you can do a lot with Excel if you kind of understand the whole Excel power into it, right? I don't have anything ready, but I'll try to kind of build something around it. But there's a
Yeah.
lot that you can do on the data set with the power of Excel that will let your reports be more meaningful than just flattened out data that is coming out of a report. And that's just all Excel. You don't need to know Business Central about it, or you don't need to know anything about it. Today what we discuss is majorly around the how you build the data set and how you kind of put that into an Excel file, more or less. But then there are so many standard Microsoft report that you can utilize with this feature to give the same in output to users in a completely meaningful manner rather than just flat out data. So we'll surely see this that next week if you know if we continue talking about this. So now the totals will be there as we had in the past, and then in the totals you'll see a sum of the customer or the vendor based on the number that is coming from there. Right. Now in case of customer, it will be wrong because it's being repeated. The customer balance is being repeated. So I don't think it's the correct number, but it's 8450196, and this is a different number. So okay, it did some magic. Okay, I didn't expected it to do that, but it did some magic here. Now let me copy this to see what actually happened, and I'll be super happy if this is what Microsoft is doing somehow. That's interesting if they can do that. Okay, let me do. There is a remove duplicate option.
You got it? You got it or the remove duplicates?
Now I'm just want to remove the duplicate so that I can see the actual uh, thing. Yes. Oh, okay. So this is the actual value, right? One line for each customer. So if I look at it now, it's actually 823319, right? Surprisingly, and I'm super amazed that Microsoft was able to kind of pull that off somehow, but they were
Yeah,
able to
nice
total
to see
it
that.
just for the customer, even if the customer balance was being repeated based on how many customer ledger entries were there. Yeah, I'm still surprised, but yeah, that's interesting. They even
Yeah, quite
the
interesting.
yeah, but yeah, you can still make this data as human readable by knowing a little bit of more Excel. Plus, you can have more presentable data based on this flat data that you have into Excel, just by knowing Excel, nothing about Business Central. And believe me, your users will be more powerful by knowing that they have this capability that they can get the data from Business Central with your help, and then build the reports in a way that are meaningful to them, and then they can surely build those different designs, and I've seen customers doing great with it, and then providing that file to you so that you can attach it into your extension, so that then that bakes in as a part of their extension in the future. I know a little bit of Excel. I didn't have anything prepared today. Sorry for that. But I'm pretty sure that I'll have something ready for you next week where we can see how you can utilize the whole Excel with this flat data that is coming out of Business Central, and then make sense out of that data. So yeah, stay tuned, and next week we'll hopefully have a demo around it so that we can kind of talk about it. Okay. In the meantime, any questions? Kanan, you were saying something? Sorry.
Yeah, actually, will be the user will be able to download this layout file from the front end? No, right?
So that's the beauty of it. So when you go into the layouts page, like you can create a custom layout, right? In the same way,
Yeah. Oh, okay.
you can just create a copy of it and then download it and upload it back,
That's great, really. Yeah.
right? So you don't even have to start. You just need to kind of start with them that what data you need. Do you know what
Correct.
fields you need? And they just give them a flat file, nothing, right?
Yeah.
And then
That's
they start utilizing their knowledge into it, saying, okay, if you give me this data, then I'll do this. So that'll
very
make
good.
more sense. And the way sometime customer will come and say, okay, I know this report, let's say detailed trial balance, one of the favorite report, right? I like the output that I see, but I would like to have this data into Excel, which is a very common request. Now what,
Yeah, very common.
right? So what I'll do, I'll say, okay, if you want it in Excel, I'll just give you this data only, right? And this is the equivalent to what you are getting out of the Excel layout, more or less, is the same file that's being generated here, that's generated from the Excel layout. So let's see what pops up here. It may not be in the same format, but it's more or less the same thing. right? You see the caption data and the translation data also available here. Now, based on this flat file, if they can create some magic, let's say create pivot tables, pivot charts, or do something around it, they are allowed to do that. And then once they have done that, they can just come as in, yes, if customer knows about it, they can surely come inside Business Central and say, okay, I would like to create a new Excel layout for this report, and this is my Excel layout file. And then system accepts it and start using that going forward. But I still believe that once they have finalized that this is their design, they should give it to you as a developer or a partner, so that you can bake in the extension, because anything that's here from a user defined perspective, there's a chance that somebody who have the rights but doesn't know what he or she is doing can delete it. If it comes from an extension, they'll not be able to delete it or remove it from here. So I firmly believe that they customers can do a great job here, and then give it to you so that you can add it into the
Copy
extension.
set into the extension. Yes, correct,
Yeah,
correct, correct.
yeah, we'll see that. I guess that's not a problem. We'll surely see how you can create a custom layout for a standard report, and then how you utilize it. Okay, anything else, anyone? Let's see what Microsoft is shipping with the standard Excel top 10 list or whatever that is. And they have done pretty good job around explaining to the partners how partners should be utilizing the power of Excel layout. So look at this. This is not a pretty straightforward report, because I did not, I guess, provided the data around it. But it's something that a customer would prefer rather than getting a flat out file, right? Now in this case, I guess I forgot the providing the number of customer vendors I want, but they give you a report look like thing into Excel, which can be printed, and then they also give you the analysis at the second tab, which gives you, let's say, possibilities with pivot tables on the same data and all. And the beauty is that you can hide the data tabs and all, so that they don't kind of visible to user at that moment. So there's no data into it, which is bad, but let's see, let's click on this tab. So you see this is what customer wants out of their data. They don't want to see a flat text into it. They want they want to see some meaningful data, some meaning derived from it. And these are just examples, and they have these what we call them here, slicer in Excel, if you guys have used it. Now the slicer gives you flexibility to filter out the component in an Excel file. That's just basic Excel, right? And then you can select one or multiple and things like that, and it'll just impact whatever is connected to that slicer. So that gives them flexibility to kind of play around with the data easily, rather than getting into an flat Excel file and then utilizing it.
Yeah, beginning level Power BI kind of thing.
Yeah, right. As in Power BI is more, I think, and if I'm not wrong, is more focused when you are looking at a entity level, year on year kind of thing, right? It's not for daily transaction data that you are using in your system. So Power BI is a completely different set of requirement. Microsoft has a uh, report user story, if I would call that, right? They have classified what kind of report or what kind of layout is should be used in businesses in different scenario. So the Power BI is more about when you are looking from a quarterly growth perspective, or quarterly analysis, or yearly analysis and all. Whereas,
Yeah, much
yeah, so
wider.
yes, so there are different use cases. I guess it's hard for us, from people who are coming from nav, to kind of communicate it, because this is not in our mindset. We always build an RDLC report for our customers. But believe me, there are different use cases for different kind of reports, and it's very important that we ship them what they want based on their need, and not just keep doing what we used to do in NAV for all these years, right? So if you see, these all are hidden sheets into it, which you can hide in your case, and then the translation data and all, and then there is a query also. I guess that's part of the report in the standard Microsoft that just generates this. So yeah, there are quite a few possibilities with the Excel layout. The problem is that the our ecosystem, especially the partner ecosystem, has not kind of presented it in a way that that gives user a reason to say, okay, yeah, for this report I don't want an RDLC layout. It's bad. It doesn't serve my purpose, and I don't want to give you 20 hours or 10 hours to build an export to Excel layout. Why don't we use the Excel report layout, and then I'll do the designing based on how I want it, and then with the power of report execution in Business Central, for the same data set, 5 different users can have 5 different layouts, and they can pick and choose which layout runs when they run the report. So that makes it more compelling for the user that yes, even if Kanan has a different layout and I had a different requirement, we both can coexist inside Business Central and run our version of the output that we want from this report.
Yeah, true.
So yeah, let's start thinking about it, and then in the next week we'll try to see how we can turn this raw data into some meaningful sense for the customers or for the end users, so that they can start utilizing the power of Excel layout that's available in Business Central.
Yeah, sure.
Anyone else have any questions? Nothing? Okay, so in that case, thank you all. And if I got your audio, I'm pretty sure my audio is coming, but if I got your audio, people, if you are watching out on YouTube, thanks to everyone who is in this meeting who tried to kind of help me configuring this. And that's the reason it's available on YouTube. But if not, you might not see it on YouTube.
Saurav, can we get this recording? You recorded this session or not?
I'm trying that. That's what I'm saying. I'm trying to record this, hoping to get the audio and the video. Video will come for sure. I just want to make sure that the audio is there, and then if yes, then this will be available on YouTube by tomorrow, most probably. Yeah, that should not be a problem.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. If you guys have any other questions, you are part of the community, so you can ping me anytime. Based on my availability, I'll try to reply to every possible question that comes my way. Thank you everyone who is contributing during my absence and answering or helping others in the community. If there's something that I can do in the community, let me know. I'll be happy to kind of do stuff in the community if needed. And if you have a question to be discussed in the next meeting, again, let me know via chat or via forum. If there is a question that remain unanswered, I'll surely try to cover it here also in the tech query section of the community. But till then, I thank you, and I'll see you sooner than later next week, hopefully at the same time, if you guys are available.
Sure, Saurav.
Wonderful. Thank you, Gaurav.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, team.
Thanks. Okay, so this is for YouTube audience. If you're not part of the community, which is here where all these PC open discussions are happening now, head up to the pinned comment or the description of this video, and you will find a link to join the community here. And then the only thing that you need to remember, that you cannot join the Teams community with your professional Teams account. You need to have your Teams personal account to join the community. And if you have any questions after watching this video, you know where to put them, either into the community if you're part of it, and if you're not, then put it on YouTube comments. I'll be happy to answer any questions that I can around it. So we'll see you next week with the community members who join next week to talk again about Excel report layouts. Thank you and have a nice day.